Ethan was never a man who believed in the impossible. He had spent his life working in the sprawling city of New Orion, a place where the neon lights never slept and the hum of engines filled every street. Yet nothing in his world could prepare him for what happened that night. It began with a strange light. He had been walking home from his shift at the research lab, tired and wishing for a simple night of rest. The light appeared suddenly above the deserted alleyway, a swirl of blue and green that shimmered and twisted in impossible ways. It wasn't like anything he had ever seen. Even in the most advanced simulations at the lab, he froze, his curiosity pulling him closer even as fear whispered in the back of his mind. Without warning, the air around him rippled like water, and the ground beneath his feet disappeared. He felt himself falling, but it wasn't a normal fall. There was no gravity in the way he knew it. Color spun around him and strange shapes seemed to stretch and bend, forming patterns that made no sense. A voice, soft yet commanding, echoed in his mind. "Do not be afraid. You are chosen." Ethan wanted to scream, but no sound escaped. The next moment he was no longer in the city. He stood on a platform that seemed to float above a vast expanse. The sky, or what he thought was the sky, was deep purple dotted with twin suns. Strange creatures moved below him, some flying gracefully, others walking on four limbs. Their forms were alien, yet there was an elegance to them that made Ethan feel small and insignificant. A figure approached him. She was tall, taller than any human, with skin that shimmered like liquid silver. Her eyes glowed faintly, and her hair seemed to float around her head as if alive. There was a presence about her that demanded attention. Ethan realized instantly that this was the one who had called to him. "I am Liara," she said, her voice melodic but filled with authority. "You have entered our world, Ethan of Earth. Here the rules are not as you know them. Every night, every moment will test you. Will you survive?" Ethan swallowed hard. I don't understand. Why me?" Liara tilted her head, studying him as if weighing his worth. "Because humans are unique. Your species has a resilience, a creativity, and a drive that no other species possesses. That is why you have been chosen. But understand this, our world is dangerous. What you know of courage will be tested in ways you cannot yet imagine." Before he could respond, the platform shifted, and he was moving, carried along by a gentle current of air that seemed alive. Below him, the landscape stretched endlessly, filled with towering crystal formations, rivers of glowing liquid, and forests that hummed with energy. Creatures of all shapes roamed freely, some friendly, some deadly. It was beautiful, terrifying, and utterly foreign. "You must learn quickly," Liara continued. "Nights here are not like nights on your planet. Darkness brings challenges, creatures hunt, storms rage, and illusions try to trick your mind. If you are unprepared, you will not survive." Ethan felt his stomach twist. The thought of being trapped in this alien world, facing unknown dangers every night, was overwhelming. But beneath the fear, a spark of excitement ignited. He had always wanted adventure, though he had never imagined it would come in this form. Their first stop was a settlement of sorts, floating platforms connected by bridges that glowed faintly under the twin suns. Other humans, he learned, had been brought here before him, though few remained. Some had adapted, learning to navigate the strange landscapes and communicate with the alien species. Others had vanished, leaving only warnings carved into the crystal walls. Liara led him to a chamber that would be his home, at least for the time being. It was simple but functional, with a bed-like structure, a small table, and devices he didn't recognize. "Rest now," she instructed. "Tonight your first test begins. You will need your strength." Ethan wanted to protest, but exhaustion pulled him under before he could argue. Sleep came quickly, though it was not peaceful. His dreams were filled with strange visions, creatures with glowing eyes, rivers of fire, forests that moved as if alive. He woke with a start, the memories vivid and unsettling. The first night was a trial. Shadows moved in ways they shouldn't, and the air itself seemed to pulse with energy. Ethan faced illusions that tested his mind. Visions of loved ones in danger, impossible mazes, and whispers that tried to lure him into traps. Each time he remembered Liara's words. "Humans are unique. You must rely on your courage and your wits." He discovered something surprising. Humans, even alone and scared, could adapt quickly. He learned to read the subtle shifts in the shadows, to anticipate the illusions, and to keep his mind focused on reality. By the time dawn broke, Ethan was exhausted but alive. He had survived his first night in Liara's world. When he returned to the settlement, Liara awaited him. Her gaze was unreadable. "You have done well," she said. "Many fail their first night, but this is only the beginning. You will face greater challenges, both physical and mental. You must learn to trust yourself and to trust those who choose to aid you." Ethan nodded, realizing that he could not do this alone. Though the world was alien, strange alliances were forming. Other humans who had survived longer shared their knowledge. They taught him about the creatures, the strange energy that flowed through the land, and the customs of the alien species. Each lesson was hard-earned, but each step brought him closer to understanding this world. Over the next few days, Ethan explored more of the strange landscapes. He marveled at floating islands, rivers of liquid light, and forests that sang with energy. He encountered creatures that could change shape, communicate telepathically, or vanish in the blink of an eye. He learned that survival here required more than strength. It required observation, patience, and ingenuity. Despite the challenges, he felt a growing sense of purpose. Humans were not the strongest species nor the fastest, but they had something unique: creativity, courage, and adaptability. Each night that passed, he became more confident. Each challenge he overcame proved that he was more capable than he had ever imagined. Liara watched him closely, a silent observer of his progress. Sometimes her presence was comforting. Other times it was a reminder of the dangers that lurked around every corner. She never intervened unless absolutely necessary, believing that Ethan's growth depended on facing challenges on his own. One evening, after surviving a particularly difficult trial involving a forest that seemed alive with predatory intent, Ethan sat with the other humans around a glowing fire. The warmth was comforting, and the flickering light made the alien landscape seem less threatening. They shared stories of their first nights, of the fears they had overcome, and of the lessons they had learned. "You're doing well," one of the older humans said, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Most don't last this long. Keep learning, and you'll survive." Ethan looked up at the sky, the twin suns setting in brilliant shades of orange and purple. He felt a mixture of fear, excitement, and determination. This world was alien, dangerous, and unpredictable, but he was beginning to belong. Each night was a challenge, yes, but also a chance to prove himself, to grow, to survive. As darkness fell again, Ethan steeled himself for what was to come. He knew that the challenges would only grow more difficult, but he also knew something else: humans could endure. Humans could adapt, and humans could rise to meet even the most impossible odds. The night stretched ahead, filled with uncertainty, danger, and wonder, but Ethan faced it with determination. In this strange alien world, every night would be a test, but he was ready. For the first time since arriving, he felt something he had never expected: hope. Ethan woke to the soft hum of the alien world. The twin suns were higher in the sky now, casting long shadows across the crystalline landscape. Unlike his first night, the day brought a strange sense of calm, but he knew better than to trust appearances. In this world, danger could hide behind beauty. Liara approached silently, her shimmering presence almost blending with the radiant light around them. "The day tests are different," she explained. "Night challenges your courage. Day tests your mind, your body, and your ability to adapt. You will face puzzles, obstacles, and creatures that move in ways you cannot predict." Ethan nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. He had survived the night, but now the real training would begin. Their first stop was a vast plain dotted with enormous crystal spires. Some were tall and thin, others twisted like ribbons of glass frozen mid-air. Ethan noticed that the crystals emitted faint vibrations, like a pulse that resonated in the ground beneath his feet. "Your first trial is here," Liara said. "You must reach the top of the tallest spire. Many have tried and few have succeeded. It is not just about climbing. You must understand the crystals, their patterns, and how they react to your movements. Observe carefully, think, and act." Ethan looked at the spire. It seemed impossible. Its smooth surface glistened in the sunlight, and there were no visible holds or ledges. He took a deep breath, remembering what Liara had said about humans' unique abilities: creativity and problem-solving, courage and patience. He started by walking around the base, examining the patterns in the crystal. He noticed tiny grooves and subtle shifts where sunlight hit. When he touched certain areas, he felt vibrations that seemed to react to pressure. Slowly, he began to experiment. By pressing specific points in a certain sequence, Small projections formed on the surface, giving him temporary footholds. Hours passed. Sweat dripped from his brow and his muscles ached, but Ethan refused to give up. Each attempt taught him something new. Each failure was a lesson. The alien world demanded patience and observation, and he was learning quickly. Finally, with careful timing and steady focus, he reached the top of the spire. The view took his breath away. From this height, he could see the endless expanse of Liara's world. Floating islands drifting lazily in the air, rivers of glowing liquid weaving through forests, and creatures moving in ways that defied his understanding of physics. Liara appeared beside him silently. "Well done," she said, her voice calm but filled with approval. "Few can succeed on their first attempt. You are learning quickly, but this is only the beginning." Ethan felt pride, but it was tempered by awareness of what lay ahead. The challenges of the day were one thing, but night would bring tests even stranger and more dangerous. After a short rest, Liara led him to another part of the world, a dense forest unlike any he had ever seen. The trees were tall, their trunks glowing faintly and their leaves seemed to hum softly. Strange creatures scuttled through the undergrowth, their shapes constantly shifting. Some were harmless, but others had sharp claws and eyes that glowed in the shadows. "Your second trial is in the forest," Liara explained. "You must navigate it without alerting the predators. You will learn to observe, to anticipate, and to act without hesitation. Success requires intelligence as much as speed." Ethan stepped into the forest cautiously. The ground was soft, almost sponge-like, and each step made a faint echo. He noticed the small creatures first, tiny insect-like beings that moved in patterns almost like signals. Then he saw the larger ones stalking silently, their bodies blending with the glowing foliage. He remembered the lessons from his first night. Watch, listen, and think. He moved slowly, using shadows and natural covers to stay hidden. He mimicked the movements of the smaller creatures, learning how they reacted to sound and light. Slowly, he made his way deeper into the forest, feeling his heart race with both fear and exhilaration. Suddenly, a predator leapt from the undergrowth. Its body shimmered and changed shape, making it difficult to predict where it would strike next. Ethan froze for a moment, then reacted instinctively. Using a fallen branch, he created a diversion, luring the creature away from his path. The forest was alive, and it required more than brute strength to survive. It required adaptability. Hours passed, and Ethan learned to anticipate the patterns of the forest. He discovered small safe zones where he could rest briefly, and he used clever tricks to move past the predators without confrontation. By the time he emerged from the dense foliage, the suns were lower, and the shadows began to lengthen. Liara awaited him again, her expression unreadable. "You have done well. You are learning the ways of our world. But remember, every trial is only preparation. Each day and night will demand more from you. You must continue to adapt, to think, to survive." Ethan nodded, his body exhausted but his mind sharp. He realized that the alien world was teaching him something fundamental. Survival depended on creativity, intelligence, and courage. Humans had these qualities in abundance, and he was beginning to see why Liara had chosen him. Over the next few days, Ethan faced more trials. He learned to swim through rivers of glowing liquid, avoiding currents that could sweep him away. He discovered that some plants were sentient, reacting to touch and sound, requiring careful negotiation rather than force. He encountered creatures that communicated telepathically, learning to understand their signals and form alliances. With each challenge, Ethan grew stronger and more confident. The humans who had survived longer shared their knowledge and strategies, teaching him about traps, natural hazards, and the behaviors of the alien creatures. Each lesson was invaluable, helping him navigate the increasingly complex world around him. Ethan also began to notice the subtle ways Liara observed him. She never directly intervened unless absolutely necessary, but her presence was always felt. Sometimes it was comforting, a reminder that someone with immense power was watching over him. Other times it was a reminder of the stakes, that failure could come at any moment. One evening, after completing a particularly difficult trial, involving a maze of floating platforms over a bottomless chasm, Ethan sat quietly reflecting on his experiences. He realized that the world was testing more than his physical skills. It was shaping his mind. Every trial required observation, patience, and problem-solving. Every night would test his courage, but every day tested his intelligence. Despite the exhaustion, he felt a growing sense of pride. Humans were not the strongest or the fastest, but they were adaptable. They could learn quickly, improvise, and find solutions where others saw only obstacles. Ethan was beginning to understand the deeper lesson of Liara's world. Humanity's greatest strength was its ability to rise to challenges, no matter how alien or impossible they seemed. As the twin suns set, painting the skies in brilliant shades of orange and purple, Ethan prepared for the coming night. He knew it would be harder than the last, with new illusions and dangers waiting in the darkness, but he also felt something he had never expected, a sense of readiness. Humans could endure. Humans could adapt. Humans could face the unknown and survive. And Ethan, for the first time since arriving, felt that he could truly belong in this world. He took a deep breath, ready for the night, ready for the challenges, and ready to prove that humanity's ingenuity and courage were forces that no alien world could ignore. Ethan had begun to understand that surviving in Liara's world required more than courage and cleverness. It required alliances. The humans who had been brought here before him had adapted in different ways. Some had learned to communicate with the alien creatures. Others had discovered ways to use the environment to their advantage. Ethan realized he could not face the night or the day trials alone. He needed allies. His first meeting with one of them came unexpectedly. He had been exploring a network of floating islands connected by fragile-looking bridges. The platform swayed gently in the breeze, suspended over a shimmering river of light. As he carefully made his way across one of the bridges, a shadow moved ahead of him. "Hold there," a voice called. Ethan froze. A human stepped from behind a crystal spire, a woman with sharp eyes and short dark hair. She looked both wary and strong. "I'm Mara," she said. "You're not careful in these parts. Creatures strike without warning." "Who are you?" "I'm Ethan," he replied. "I've been learning, trying to survive." Mara studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Survival isn't just about skill. It's about knowing who to trust. Follow me. I'll show you safer paths and teach you how to watch for predators." Ethan followed her cautiously. Along the way, Mara pointed out hidden signals, subtle vibrations in the crystal bridges that indicated movement nearby. She showed him how to communicate with the smaller creatures, using simple gestures and sound patterns to avoid conflict. For the first time, Ethan realized that the world was not just dangerous, it was interactive. It responded to those who paid attention, who learned its patterns. Over the next few days, Ethan and Mara explored together. They discovered areas where the environment itself became a challenge. One morning, they faced a vast chasm filled with floating rocks that shifted unpredictably. Crossing it required coordination and trust. Ethan learned to anticipate Mara's movements, and she learned to trust his instincts. Together, they navigated the treacherous path. But alliances brought not just strength, they also brought vulnerability. One night, while resting in a hidden grove, a predator attacked. It was unlike any creature Ethan had seen before. Massive, with translucent skin that revealed shifting internal structures, and multiple limbs that moved in perfect, terrifying coordination. Ethan and Mara fought side by side. He remembered his previous lessons, using clever diversions and the environment to their advantage. Mara moved with precision, striking at weak points and calling out warnings. For the first time, Ethan felt the true power of human cooperation. They survived the attack, but not without realizing the stakes had risen. Liara appeared shortly after the battle, her presence both calming and commanding. "You are learning well," she said. "But understand this. The world grows more complex with each passing day. Your success is no longer measured only by survival. It is measured by growth, understanding, and the ability to face the unknown together." Ethan nodded, realizing the truth in her words. Humans were strong, yes, but alone they were limited. Together they could achieve more than any individual. The following days brought new challenges. Ethan and Mara discovered areas where the environment itself seemed alive, reacting to their movements. Crystal forests shifted when touched. Rivers of light changed flow patterns, and even the air vibrated with unseen energy. They learned to adapt quickly, using observation and ingenuity to navigate these strange, ever-changing landscapes. They also encountered creatures that were not hostile but curious. Ethan found himself communicating with a large winged creature that seemed to understand his gestures and expressions. Through trial and error, He learned to ride on its back, traveling quickly across vast distances. Mara followed, riding a smaller but equally intelligent creature. Together they explored regions that had previously seemed inaccessible. One day they stumbled upon a hidden valley, filled with structures that appeared ancient. The buildings were crystalline, glowing faintly with internal energy. Strange symbols covered the walls and the air thrummed with a low, steady vibration. Ethan felt a mixture of awe and unease. This place seemed old, perhaps older than Liara herself. We need to be careful, Mara warned. There's power here, but also danger. The trials we've faced are nothing compared to what might lie inside. Ethan nodded. He could feel the intelligence behind the structures, a presence watching them even as they explored. They entered cautiously, moving through hallways that twisted and bent in impossible ways. The crystals responded to their presence, opening paths where they stepped and closing doors behind them. At the center of the valley, they found a chamber filled with glowing orbs, suspended in midair. Each orb seemed to contain a miniature scene: forests, rivers, cities, and strange creatures. Ethan realized they were seeing glimpses of different worlds, perhaps even the histories of Liara's people. "This is incredible," he whispered. "It's like a library, but alive," Mara nodded. "We must learn from it. This knowledge could help us survive and perhaps even help our species grow stronger." As they studied the orbs, a sudden vibration shook the chamber. One of the orbs flared brightly and a shadow moved within it, a form unlike anything they had seen before. Ethan felt a surge of fear, but he also felt determination. They had come this far, faced countless dangers, and survived. Whatever this new challenge was, he knew they could meet it together. The shadow leapt from the orb, taking shape in the chamber. It was large, dark, and shifting, a predator made of energy and shadow. Ethan and Mara prepared to defend themselves, using their knowledge of the environment and their creatures. They realized that brute strength alone would not be enough. They needed strategy, observation, and coordination. The battle was intense. The shadow moved unpredictably, striking at angles they did not expect. Ethan used his surroundings, bouncing light off the crystals to confuse the creature. Mara created diversions, drawing its attention and keeping it off balance. Each move required thought, timing, and trust. Finally, with a coordinated effort, they managed to trap the shadow within a prism of energy. It thrashed and shimmered but could not escape. Ethan and Mara stood panting, exhausted but victorious. Liara appeared, her presence calm yet imposing. "You have learned the greatest lesson of all," she said. "Humans are not the strongest nor the fastest, but together with courage, intelligence, and trust they can overcome the impossible. You are growing into the being I hope to guide." Ethan looked at Mara, then at the strange chamber around them. He felt a deep sense of accomplishment, but he also understood that this was only the beginning. The world held more challenges, more mysteries, and more dangers than he could imagine. Yet for the first time he felt truly confident. He was not alone. He had allies, knowledge, and the determination to face whatever came next. Humans had survived, adapted, and thrived in impossible conditions before, and here in Liara's world they would do so again. As the twin suns set, casting long shadows over the crystalline valley, Ethan and Mara prepared to leave the chamber. The night would bring new trials, but they would face them together. And in this strange, alien world, they would continue to prove that human courage, intelligence, and adaptability were forces to be reckoned with. For Ethan, each step forward was no longer just about survival. It was about growth, understanding, and becoming part of something larger than himself. And in this world of wonder and danger, he was beginning to understand that humans could rise above even the most impossible odds. The next morning, Ethan woke to the gentle hum of Liara's world. The twin suns were rising, casting long golden streaks over the floating islands. He could feel the energy of the place, a constant, subtle vibration that seemed to pulse in time with his heartbeat. Today felt different. Today, the trials would push him further than ever before. Liara appeared beside him, her presence calm but commanding. "You are ready," she said. "The next challenge will test not only your body and mind, but your spirit. You will journey to the heart of the world," Ethan swallowed. He had heard whispers from the other humans about the heart, a place that contained the oldest energy in Liara's world. It was said to be beautiful and dangerous, full of knowledge, but guarded by forces that could destroy the unprepared. Mara joined him, her expression determined. "We face this together," she said. "Whatever happens, we rely on each other." Ethan nodded, feeling a surge of confidence. Together they had faced predators, navigated shifting forests, and survived illusions. They had learned to trust their instincts and each other. Whatever awaited them, they would meet it as a team. Their journey began with a trek across a vast plateau of floating crystals. The ground beneath them shimmered faintly, and the air was thick with energy. Strange winged creatures circled overhead, observing them silently. Ethan and Mara moved carefully, aware that the environment itself could be a test. Hours into their journey, they encountered their first real challenge, a chasm of glowing liquid, wider and deeper than anything they had crossed before. The surface of the liquid pulsed with strange energy, reacting violently to sound and movement. One wrong step and they would be swept into its depths. Ethan studied the chasm, noting the small floating crystals scattered across its surface. They were unstable, moving slightly with each pulse of energy. He remembered lessons from the floating islands and the crystal forests. Observation, patience, timing. Carefully, he stepped onto the first crystal, testing its reaction. It wobbled but held. Mara followed, her movements precise. Together they moved from crystal to crystal, timing each step with the rhythm of the energy below. When they reached the far side, Ethan felt a sense of triumph. They were growing stronger, learning to adapt not just to the world but to its patterns and rhythms. Beyond the chasm lay a dense forest, darker than any they had seen. The trees here were taller, their trunks thick with veins of glowing energy. The air vibrated, and Ethan could sense the presence of unseen eyes watching them. This forest, Liara had warned, was alive in a way they had not encountered before. As they moved deeper, illusions began to appear. Ethan saw visions of his life on Earth, his city, his friends, even his family. Each vision tugged at his emotions, attempting to distract him, to weaken his focus. He realized quickly that the forest was testing his mind, probing for fear, doubt, and hesitation. Mara held his hand briefly, grounding him. "Remember who you are," she whispered. "Focus on the present. Focus on the challenge." Ethan nodded, centering himself. Slowly he moved through the forest, learning to distinguish between illusion and reality. Each step tested his perception, patience, and resolve. He realized that human intelligence was more than logic. It was creativity, problem-solving, and emotional control. At the heart of the forest, they discovered a massive crystal structure, taller than any building they had seen. Its surface shimmered with energy, and it seemed to breathe as if alive. This was the heart of the world. Ethan felt a mix of awe and fear. He could sense immense power within it, ancient knowledge waiting to be understood, but also forces that could destroy the unprepared. As they approached, a barrier of energy materialized. It shimmered and shifted, preventing them from moving forward. Ethan realized this was not a physical obstacle, but a test of mind and spirit. He and Mara closed their eyes, focusing on their bond, their shared determination, and their trust in each other. Slowly, the barrier responded, allowing them passage. Inside, the heart was breathtaking. Crystalline towers rose from the ground, each filled with glowing energy. Orbs floated mid-air, displaying scenes from distant worlds. The air thrummed with knowledge, and Ethan felt his mind expand, understanding things he could never have imagined. But the heart did not welcome them passively. Shadows moved among the towers, entities of pure energy and intent. They attacked swiftly, testing their reflexes, coordination, and courage. Ethan and Mara worked together seamlessly, combining agility, strategy, and observation. They realized that the heart itself was alive, testing those who sought its knowledge. Hours passed in intense struggle. Ethan discovered that he could use the environment to his advantage, directing energy pulses from the crystalline towers to repel the shadows. Mara coordinated with him, predicting movements and creating openings. Together they overcame the attacks, learning to anticipate the patterns of the heart. Finally, the shadows receded. Ethan and Mara stood at the center of the heart, surrounded by glowing energy and floating orbs. They could feel the intelligence of the world, ancient and vast, observing them. Ethan reached out, touching one of the orbs. In an instant, knowledge flowed into him, understanding the creatures, the environment, and the energy that bound it all together. Liara appeared beside them. "You have proven yourselves worthy," she said. "The heart reveals its knowledge only to those who show courage, intelligence, and trust. Humans possess qualities that no other species has mastered. You adapt, you learn, and you endure." Ethan felt a deep sense of connection, not just to this world, but to humanity itself. Humans were resilient, creative, and brave. In the face of impossible odds, they could survive and thrive. He realized that every trial, every challenge had been designed to awaken these qualities. As they left the heart of the world, Ethan and Mara felt stronger and more confident. They had faced illusions, predators, and tests that challenged mind and body. They had relied on each other and discovered that human cooperation was a force that could overcome even the most alien challenges. The journey back to the settlement was filled with reflection. Ethan thought about the lessons he had learned: observation, patience, trust, and courage. He understood that humans were not the strongest species physically, but their intelligence and adaptability made them extraordinary. At nightfall, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Ethan and Mara prepared for their next challenge. Darkness would bring new trials, but they were ready. Each challenge was a chance to prove that humans could endure, adapt, and grow stronger. Ethan looked at Mara and smiled. "We've come a long way," he said. "Yes," she replied. "But the world still has more to teach us, and we must be ready for whatever comes next." As the night settled over the alien landscape, Ethan felt a sense of purpose he had never known. The world was dangerous, yes, but it was also full of wonder. Humans had survived against impossible odds before, and here, in Liara's world, they were proving it again. The heart of the world had tested them, shown them truths, and revealed the power of their species. And Ethan knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, humans would rise to meet them, clever, courageous, and unstoppable. The world outside the settlement had grown quiet as night fell. Ethan and Mara stood at the edge of the plateau, looking out at the vast alien landscape below. Shadows stretched across the forests, rivers of glowing liquid shimmered faintly, and the twin suns had disappeared behind distant mountains. The air was charged with energy, a subtle reminder that darkness brought challenges unlike any the day could present. Liara appeared beside them, her presence calm yet commanding. "Tonight," she said, "you face the ultimate trial. Everything you have learned, the courage, the intelligence, the adaptability, and the trust you have built, will be tested. The trial will challenge both body and mind. Only by working together and relying on your unique qualities can you succeed." Ethan nodded. He felt the weight of the moment, but also a deep sense of confidence. He and Mara had survived countless challenges: day trials that tested observation and intellect, night trials that tested courage, and the heart of the world that tested their spirit. They had grown stronger, smarter, and more resilient. Tonight would be the final test of everything they had learned. The journey to the trial site was treacherous. The path wound through floating islands suspended over chasms of glowing energy. Creatures moved in the shadows, some watching silently, others following from a distance. Ethan and Mara moved cautiously, using every skill they had learned. They observed, they anticipated, and they adapted. When they reached the center of the trial site, they saw it. A colossal arena formed of crystal spires, floating rocks, and glowing energy barriers. At its heart was a massive shadow creature, far larger and more terrifying than any they had faced before. Its form constantly shifted, impossible to predict, and its eyes glowed with intelligence. This was the ultimate challenge, the test of all they had learned. Ethan felt a surge of fear, but it was tempered by determination. Mara squeezed his hand. "We can do this, together!" The shadow moved first, striking with incredible speed. Ethan and Mara dodged, relying on their reflexes and intuition. They realized quickly that brute force alone would not work. The creature adapted with every move they made, testing their intelligence, patience, and creativity. Ethan remembered the lessons from the crystal forests and floating islands. He noticed patterns in the creature's movement, subtle rhythms that hinted at its next strike. He signaled to Mara, and they began a coordinated strategy. Using the environment, they redirected energy pulses from the surrounding crystals to create temporary barriers. The shadow struck, collided with the barriers, and recoiled. Mara acted in perfect sync with him, creating diversions and opening pathways for Ethan to move. They realized the trial required complete trust and cooperation. Every instinct, every observation, every decision mattered. Failure was not an option. The battle raged on for what felt like hours. The shadow's form shifted constantly, testing their adaptability. It created illusions of themselves, trying to confuse and divide them. But Ethan and Mara had learned to see through deception. They focused on reality, communicated silently, and relied on their unique strengths. At one point, the shadow lunged at Ethan, who instinctively dodged and used a reflective crystal to redirect a pulse of energy. The pulse struck the creature, destabilizing its form for a moment. Mara seized the opportunity, leading the creature toward a cluster of floating spires. They used the spire's energy to trap the shadow temporarily, creating an opening for their next move. Ethan realized that the creature was not just a mindless predator. It was intelligent, responding to strategy and creativity. Humans had survived because they could adapt, think, and collaborate. The shadow was powerful, but it could not anticipate the ingenuity of a species that thrived on problem-solving. Drawing on everything he had learned, Ethan devised a plan. He noticed a pattern in the floating crystals around the arena. Some pulsed in rhythm with the creature's energy. By manipulating these crystals, he could create a resonance that would temporarily weaken the shadow. Mara understood immediately, helping him redirect the energy pulses in perfect timing. The final moments were tense. The arena trembled with energy. The shadow shrieked and shifted wildly, and Ethan felt his strength waning. But he held firm, trusting his knowledge, his instincts, and Mara. Together, they activated the final pulse. The shadow shimmered, distorted, and then collapsed into a harmless wave of light that dissipated into the air. Silence fell over the arena. Ethan and Mara stood together, breathing heavily, hearts pounding with exhilaration and relief. They had survived the ultimate trial. They had proven that humans, through courage, intelligence, adaptability, and cooperation, could overcome even the most impossible challenges. Liara appeared before them, her form glowing faintly in the dim light. "You have succeeded," she said. "The trial was designed to test the essence of your species. You have shown that humans are not merely survivors. They are innovators, problem solvers, and beings capable of rising above any obstacle. You have earned your place in this world." Ethan felt a wave of pride and gratitude. He looked at Mara, whose eyes reflected the same awe and relief. They had faced impossible odds, grown stronger together, and emerged victorious. The alien world had tested them, shaped them, and taught them the power of humanity. Over the following days, Ethan and Mara helped other humans and creatures adapt to the challenges of the world. They shared the knowledge they had gained, teaching observation, strategy, and teamwork. Humans began to thrive, not just surviving, but actively shaping the world with their intelligence and ingenuity. Ethan realized that this world, once so alien and terrifying, had become a place of opportunity. Humans could rise to challenges, learn from the environment, and build alliances across species. Their resilience and creativity were unmatched, and with each passing day they became a vital part of the alien world. Liara watched quietly, her expression both proud and contemplative. "Humans have exceeded my expectations," she said. "Their potential is extraordinary. This world is vast and challenges will continue, but they are ready. They will not only survive, they will thrive." As the twin suns rose again, casting brilliant light across the crystalline landscape, Ethan felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever. He had been brought to this world not just to survive, but to prove the strength of humanity. Courage, intelligence, and cooperation had carried him this far, and he knew they would carry him further still. For the first time, Ethan looked at the horizon and imagined the future. Humans, adaptable and clever, could face any challenge, overcome any danger, and rise above the impossible. In Liara's world, they had proven themselves, and in doing so, they had shown that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to endure, innovate, and grow. Mara stood beside him, smiling. "We did it," she said. "Yes," Ethan replied. "And this is only the beginning." The alien world stretched before them, full of wonder, danger, and opportunity. Every night would bring new challenges, but humans were ready. They had learned, adapted, and survived, and together, they would continue to thrive, proving that the human spirit was a force no world could ignore. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the energy of the world around him. He knew that humans could face anything, no matter how alien, dangerous, or impossible it seemed. In Liara's world, they had not only survived, they had triumphed, and for the first time since arriving, Ethan felt a complete sense of belonging. He was part of something greater than himself. He was part of a species capable of extraordinary things. And in this alien world, humanity had shown its greatest strength, the ability to rise, endure, and flourish.